Hello and welcome to another episode of the Scripting Den podcast. I'm Fernando as usual, and in this episode I want to play the card of I have 20 years of experience in the IT industry. So I wanna demystify a few myths. I just want to unmask a few lies of the IT industry that I've read and heard over the years. And I know some of you who are just getting started are actually reading this and saying and thinking that they're true. Sometimes it's easier to think that these lies are true and seeing them as blockers to get into the industry or as blockers to just quote unquote understand why you're not improving or you're not growing as a developer. But none of these are true. These are all lies. And I just want to give you context around them or just call them out for what they are. So let's just start with the first one, which is a classic one that I heard tons of times, and I think this is especially relevant if you're not a developer yet. You're even maybe you're looking to study software development and you're thinking, boy, I don't know anything about math. I can't be a developer. And that's not true. That's actually it couldn't be farther from the truth. That's what I was trying to say. You don't really need math as a developer. Granted, there are roles, there are positions, there are jobs that will definitely require you to know math. But those are very specific ones. If you want to be a data scientist, if you want to develop new AI techniques, if you want to do data analysis, then definitely math and some areas of math will come in handy and will definitely make you stand out. Now, if you're working with robotics, if you're trying to get into SpaceX and develop the next self-landing rocket, then you definitely need probably big knowledge of math in those roles. But the IT industry, the software development industry, is far greater than that. Areas like web development, game development, even or other like robotics itself doesn't really by itself require math. We have to remember that yes, there might be roles where the math is required, but as developers, we usually tend to grab that specific knowledge and then turn it into a library, turn it into an API that then everyone else can make use of. So you can create complex stuff using complex libraries without you having to understand exactly everything that goes inside those libraries, those APIs. Think about, for example, ChatGPT and OpenAI. They have several APIs that allow you to use their LLMs, one of the most complex LLMs in the world right now. You can use it to create applications around it. Without, it's going to be, in the end, it's going to be you creating an AI-based application, but you don't have to be an AI expert. You don't have to do anything, know anything about AI. You just have to know how to use their product, their library, or their API. So this is how our industry works. So when people say you need to be good at math to be a developer, no, you don't. Yes, you might benefit, or it might give you access to areas where you wouldn't get in without that knowledge. But in general, if you want to become a developer, you can then use that knowledge from others and create, huge things on top of that knowledge without you having to have that knowledge. So no, you don't really need math to be a developer. That's lie number one. Lie number two, you need to be passionate about development. You need to love your job. And, I think I used to believe that as well. And when you're young, when you're discovering software development for the first time, that feeling that you get, it might get confused. You might confuse it with a requirement to get into a job. You might confuse it with, you have to be passionate about what you're building, what you're doing, about learning to be a developer. That's not true. Over the years, I've realized that I'm passionate about getting paid at the end of the month. That's it. That's all I'm passionate about. I'll do my job to the best of my extent, but then when it's time to close my computer and be with my family, that's what I'm passionate about. So you can be a great developer without having to have a non-existent passion for code. That's absolutely valid. And you're not going to be worse or better than any other developer because they do it out of passion for coding or for creating software. That's also a very valid reason to get into the industry, but it's not a requirement. You don't really have to love coding to be a great developer. Those are two very different things. And you can be as successful as someone who's doing it out of love, out of passion, without feeling it that way. After all, if you're going the 9-to-5 route, essentially being an employee and working for someone else, then you have to be a responsible developer. You have to be someone who shows up every day and does their best job, but that's it. You don't have to dream or think about coding 24/7. That's not a requirement. Now, line number 3, you need to start young to get anywhere. All developers don't matter anymore. Again, that's completely untrue. It might have been true 10, 15, 20 years ago, I don't know, where when getting or getting information about or learning about software development was more restrictive because we didn't have the means to do it. Right now, you could just open a computer and get a tutorial or learn online from some of the best developers there are for free, and at whatever age you have. Honestly, I mean, just going to Twitter and start following developers, and you'll see that there are many developers who have switched careers after 40, 50 years of working somewhere else, and they are getting started now with their new role, and they are enjoying whatever they're doing, and there are no limitations. Whoever stops you and says, no, you're too old to start learning, it's just gatekeeping because they're afraid that you might be better than them. That's it. There's no reason to stop someone from learning a new profession, especially one that doesn't require you to be physically active. That might be a condition in some jobs where you have to be able to lift weights or move fast or whatever, and at certain age we just can't do it anymore. Here all you need is your mind and be able to move your fingers, and in some situations not even that. There are tools that will let you code if you have some disability as well. So the point here is that whoever wants to become a developer can and has the means to do it. This doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's as simple as just opening up the computer and say I'm a developer now, but you have the information at your disposal. Whether you want to go to college, whether you want to do it online, paying or for free or whatever, there are tons of means for you to learn coding. Either whether you're 18 years old or 80, as long as you're willing to learn, everything's out there for you to pick up. And there are means for you to get jobs. There are means for you to find people looking for developers who are just getting started. So again, you don't have to be a certain age to be a successful developer. In fact, I would say that as someone coming from another industry, say you're switching jobs, switching industry after a while of working in a completely different sector, you're joining the IT industry with a lot of baggage that is going to be beneficial for your role. It's going to give you already know how to work essentially. All you have to do now is learn how to code. But everything related to being responsible, understanding how a job actually works, understanding how to deal with the manager, or even if you're coming from a role or an industry where you have to be social, then you already have the advantage on many developers who just haven't been focused on developing their social skills. So as long as you can ramp up on your coding skills, you're set. You can definitely work as a developer and you'll be more successful than many others. So again, age has no significance in being a good or bad developer. Now, another lie. You need a computer degree to become a software developer. Now, a computer degree or computer science degree or a software development degree, the point is there are a lot of people that say that you can't really be a developer without going through college, essentially, and spending 5 years in an engineering school, learning everything that there is to learn, and then getting that degree from there. That's not true. Again, you can get all the details that those people will get online. Some of them for free, and some of them paying. The point here is that there is no right way to learn the profession of being a developer. There are many alternatives, which is great for industry. You can go the 5-year route. You can go to a lesser degree and as well to college. You can go the free route and just learn from YouTube. Online tutorials and so on. You can learn the paying quick route like a bootcamp, an online bootcamp, things like that. There are many ways for you to learn how to code. What you do with that knowledge is what's going to determine what kind of developer you're going to be afterwards. In my case, I tried the formal route. I went to college, ended up dropping after a couple of years because I got my first job and I started working full-time there. Eventually, after several years of working, I realized I was missing bits of theory behind my practical knowledge. So I decided to go back, and after knowing how to code for many years and having worked as a developer for many years, I went back to college, finished a short degree of 2 years, got all that theory that I was missing, and I came out feeling like I had the knowledge I needed that I was missing. So I went kind of both ways, essentially, formal and self-taught, if you will. But it doesn't have to be your path. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pick one, and you don't have to pick formal education either. You have to pick whatever works for you. As individuals that we are, we all learn in different ways. So whoever tells you that you're learning in the wrong way, it's just completely out of touch with reality. And you have to focus on whatever works for you. If YouTube is what works for you, fantastic, then go that way. If you actually need a teacher in front of you telling you or explaining things to you, that's also completely valid, and just go that way. Just don't feel ashamed about the way you become a developer. Just do it and then start working as one. And now the final lie that I want to cover is that, we tend to say that stack A is better than stack B. JavaScript is better than TypeScript. C is better than C++. C# is better than .NET, whatever. It's just not right, because there are no absolutes in our industry. That's the first thing. You can't say my language is better than yours, my framework is better than yours, because you have to put context around that statement. And even then, at the end of the day, the user, who's the final judge of your product, they're not going to care about what you use to build your product. They're just going to care about how it looks and how it works. If using the tools you had at hand you made it look good and work properly, then you have a successful product. Obviously, there are other things that matter around that, but from the developer's perspective, you've done your job. If you use the optimal technology for that specific task, that's irrelevant. In the real world, in theory, yes, you might think that there are situations in which certain database, for example, is better at doing data retrieval than others. If you have a web application, then you might want to use certain framework over the other because of technical debt, because of this tool maybe it hasn't been updated in a few years, whatever. The point is, you could be using assembly language here, but if you got the job done, if you got the task completed and the user is enjoying your product, then it doesn't really matter. The stack doesn't matter that much. Clearly, for you specifically as a developer, if you want to stay relevant and you think that whatever you're using is just too outdated, and if you keep using it, then you won't be able to get another job somewhere else because you'll be out of touch with the industry, then it is a valid concern, but there are other ways to solve that problem other than refusing to work with a stack, essentially. Just remember that one thing is how you feel and the progression that you want for your career, and a very different one is reality and real life and the project that you're dealing with, that you're working on. The project that you're working on has certain constraints that are probably outside of your control. It has certain dates around that has to be met regarding deliveries, regarding time to market and so on, and you can't really control all of that. You just have to adapt to your job, make sure that you do the best you can with the tools you have, and then if you want to stay relevant, if you feel like what you're using, the technology that you're using is not something that others are using and you want to switch, then definitely bringing it up to your manager and making a case for it is a possibility. But also there are other options like creating your personal project, writing technical articles about that technology to get to know it without having to spend a lot of time working on project with it. There are many ways in which you can still stay relevant within the industry without having to actually work on a stack that you like. But just remember, at the end of the day, for your practical job, for the project that you're working on, the tech stack is irrelevant. What really matters is what you do with the tools that you have at hand. And that's it. That's it for this episode. These are the biggest lies I've heard or read about the IT industry. Just to sum it up, remember, you don't really need math to be a developer or a good developer either. You don't really have to love your job or have a passion for coding if you want to be a great developer. You just have to want to do a good job. That's all. You definitely don't need to be young to be a good developer. Your age doesn't really matter. There is no age restrictions when it comes to learning how to code. So that's definitely a lie. You don't really need a degree to become a developer either. There are many ways in which you can become a developer and get that knowledge. Getting a degree and through formal education is a completely valid one. And if that works for you, then fantastic, go that way. But there are other ways in which you can also achieve the same thing. And finally, the stack that you're using doesn't really matter to the end user. So the comparison and the argument of my stack is better than yours just makes no sense. Just use whatever you have. And if you don't like it, if you're not happy with it, there are a lot of ways in which you can switch, or you can at least play with other technology while you find a way out of your current stack. And that's it. I hope you found this episode insightful, and I hope my 20 years of experience have actually been relevant to you to this point on this podcast. And if they have, I would really love to know what you think about it. So reach out, make sure you find me on Twitter or through my newsletter, or even through my YouTube channel. Just find me somewhere, leave a comment. I would love to know what you think. Until then, have fun and keep coding. And that was it for this episode of the Scripting Them podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you can find me online on Twitter at TheDeepMan123. And you can also find the podcast YouTube channel just searching for the Scripting Them on YouTube. Thank you again, and catch you on the next one.